So maybe without further delays, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Rodrigo, and I'm part of the American Chamber of Commerce in Portugal. And to start, I want to share a special thank you to Finpartner, a valued AmCham member, for supporting this webinar series and for being with us once again today. This webinar series was created with the goal of providing practical and relevant information to those considering living, working, investing, or relocating to Portugal, and particularly members of the American community and US citizens that are interested in the Portuguese market and lifestyle. Over the past years, Portugal has become an increasingly attractive destination for international professionals, entrepreneurs, and families, and we are proud to see a growing American community choosing Portugal as their home. Today's session, titled Moving to Portugal, Tax Representation and Self-Employment Essentials, will focus on important aspects of the Portuguese tax framework for foreigners, helping participants better understand key procedures and obligations when establishing themselves in Portugal. We are delighted to be joined by Ana Castelhano, which is the head of Immigration Department, and Claudiu Vancea, the key account assistant at Finpartner, and they will guide us through today's presentation over the next 40 minutes, followed by a Q&A session with all of us. I would encourage everyone to place their questions in the chat throughout the session, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Without further delay, I will now hand over to Ana and Claudiu. Thank you once again for your availability and support, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ana, and today we are here to talk with you about moving to Portugal, the first steps, why you should choose Portugal, and then speak a little bit about the self-employment for workers and so on. To start, I would like to present a little bit Finpartner. Finpartner was founded in 2026 and is specialized in providing accounting, taxation, payroll, and consulting services with national and international clients. We work direct with the national and international companies as well as individuals. So, as I said, and Rodrigo as well, my name is Ana Castelhano. I'm head of Immigration Desk. We handle the tax representation services and relocation strategies when our clients decided to come to Portugal. And my colleague, Claudiu, a key accountant assistant, specialist in self-employment and personal income, as known as IRS, and supporting all of our clients, international clients, with their tax obligations for them to be fulfilled. In this webinar, we will talk about the first steps. That means what you should need to know when you decided to come and live or work here in Portugal, tax representation, when it's required and how it works, and self-employment, obligations for independent workers, choosing a tax regime, and for last, IRS brackets, social security contributions. So the first steps to move to Portugal. Why you choose Portugal? As you know, Portugal is a small country in Southern Europe, and it's known for its safety, good weather, high quality of life. And over the past years, a lot of people, individuals, families, are seeing for a different kind of life, and they are choosing to come to Portugal. As you know, Portugal is one of the safest countries in the world. The cost of living here is lower than in the United States. The weather here it's very good. We had a lot of sunny days, and our food and culture are very rich. And for the past few years, many international students, expats, workers, and people decided to retire are deciding to come and live here in Portugal. Before you relocate to Portugal, there is some first steps that you need to be aware. And you need to prepare some documents and some subjects before you came. The first step, and that one is really, really important, is to get your NIF. Your NIF is your Portuguese number identification, so a Portuguese tax number. And this is very, very important, but I will speak a little bit more forward. The second step is open a Portuguese bank account. The third is to find a place where you need to live. This place can be to renting an apartment, a house, or even to buy one. And the fourth one, you register for healthcare services. If for some reason you get sick and you need to go to the hospital, you need to be registered in our public health system. So this is the steps that are very important that you need to be aware before to come to Portugal and for you to start your life here in Portugal and everything go smoothly. So what is the NIF? The NIF is our Portuguese tax number and is mandatory for any administrative, legal, financial here in Portugal. If you decided to lease or decide to buy a property here in Portugal, they will require your NIF. To open your bank account is also mandatory, and when you need to contract water, electricity, internet contracts, this is also very important to have, otherwise you cannot contract this kind of services. And for freelance activity registration is also necessary and mandatory. As a tax residency here in Portugal, for foreign people, we have two different situations. When after you pass through all the necessary steps and come to Portugal to relocate and live here in Portugal, if you spend more than 183 days here in Portugal during a period of 12 months, normally tax authority will consider that you are a tax residency here in Portugal, but must have proof that you are living here for more than these 183 days. And if you buy a place here in Portugal and is for your permanent residency, this is also a proof that you are living here in Portugal. So it's very important that you fulfill your obligations here in Portugal, and it's necessary that all your information is updated. So I would like to speak a little bit about tax representation. And the tax representation is a service that Finpartner provide to all of their clients who do not live here in Portugal, but for some reason they have assets here in Portugal. Can be they have a property and they are renting the place, so they are receiving some income from them. And for this kind of clients, for non-residents outside of Europe, they need to have a tax representative here in Portugal. Our role as nominated as their tax representative is to act. It's to serve as a bridge between tax authority and the clients and guarantee that all the notifications, all the information is updated. As for example, we will receive a notification from tax authority and then we have to communicate to our client. And if they need to pay something or they need to answer something to tax authority, we will act in their behalf. So if they have taxes to pay here in Portugal, we also act in their behalf. And it's very, very important that the tax representative do their obligations or not. So it's very important that tax representatives fulfill their obligations for tax authority and for the non-residents clients.
Okay, so now, hello everyone, my name is Claudiu. I'm a key account assistant here at Finpartner. Can you hear me well? Say yes, something? Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, I see here some. Okay, great. So now we are going to dive a little bit into the independent workers in Portugal, and we will also speak about a little bit about companies as well. So after you get this first step done, that is basically applying for a Portuguese tax number, applying for the residency permit in Portugal, obtaining the residency permit in Portugal, and then becoming a fiscal resident in Portugal. Now you are entitled to become a freelancer in Portugal, to open a business. Actually, to open a company, you can be a non-resident, but to be a freelancer, you can open the activity when you become a tax resident in Portugal. Okay. And basically, from the freelancers, independent workers, or self-employed persons, we have two regimes now that we can divide. Now we are going to speak a little bit about more details, how the taxation works. And on these two regimes, as a freelancer, we have the simplified regime and we have the organized accounting regime. The simplified regime, the general rule says that from what you invoice through your freelance activity during the year, 75% is taxable income and 25% is business activity. So the simplified regime already says what is income, what is profit that is taxable, and what is business expenses. Okay, on the other side, we have the organized accounting regime, which is basically this regime works just like for a company. We see the total income, the total revenue, we have the total of the business expenses, revenue less expenses will have the profit of the year, and the profit will be taxed at the progressive rates in Portugal. We will see in the future the progressive rates in Portugal, so for you to let you know how it works. There is one rule. There is basically, if you think that you are going to make more than 200,000 euros per year, then it's mandatory to have the organized accounting regime. Okay, so those are the two regimes for freelancers in Portugal. Moving forward. Okay, so this is just an example about the simplified regime to let you know how it works. So basically, we have the example that the total revenue was 50K, the 75% coefficient will apply, so the taxable income is 37,500 in Portugal. The rest is considered as a business expense. Next, we have now I'm going to dive a little bit into some obligations that a freelancer, not just a freelancer, but also a company based in Portugal, you have to file to the Portuguese tax authority. Otherwise, you can get fines if you do not file it on time. And the very first one, as an individual and a tax resident, is the IRS declaration. And this is a yearly declaration where we declare your worldwide income in Portugal from January to December. The deadline to file it is between April and June of the next year. So for example, now we are in May 2026. Now it's time to declare the IRS from 2025, declaring the whole income. There is one note here, because when you move to Portugal, at the beginning, you will be a non-resident, meaning that you'll have the Portuguese tax number with your address, but it's not a Portuguese address. From the moment that you become a tax resident, we change the address to the Portuguese one. you need to declare all of your income in Portugal. Until then, you only need to declare in Portugal income from Portuguese source. So this is there is this difference between a resident and a non-resident. The next declaration that we usually have is the recapitulative declaration, which is basically whenever you have a business open and you sell service to intra-community market, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, we need to file this declaration. And then we have the VAT declaration, which is basically the IVA declaration. The IVA, it's a tax that applies not only in Portugal, but through the whole European Union. Whenever you buy something, when you are in Europe and you want to buy something, you pay the value of the good plus the VAT, the IVA. When you have a business, if you conduct a business, you may have the right to deduct that VAT. But on the other side, you have to charge VAT to your customers. So every quarter or monthly basis, depends, we have to file the VAT declaration for the business. As a freelancer, there is a rule, the 15,000 euros rule, 15K. If you invoice less than this amount per year, you are exempt of VAT, which means that you don't have to charge any VAT on your services that you provide to your customers. But from the moment that you pass this amount, your next invoice will need to have VAT on top. The rates in Portugal of the VAT are three. We have three different rates. The principal one is 23%, but then we have the 13 and the 6%. We have these three rates. Why? Because under the Portuguese tax authority, ICE, for example, if we are buying food, something that is very essential for our surviving, the VAT is less, it decreases. But the standard procedure usually is 20%. Some more tax obligations that we have, it's Modelo 30. If you conduct a business and if you have to make payments to entities that are not living in Portugal, they are not resident in Portugal, then we have to file the Modelo 30. And this Modelo 30, the deadline to file it is basically 2 months after the payment. And then we have the IES. The IES, this is a mandatory declaration for companies and for individuals with organized account regime only. And basically this IES, it's simplified business information where we have all the information about the year, a P&L, a balance sheet, and everything that happened through the year as a business. And then we have this billing communication. When you open a business, you need to make invoices, right, to the customers to get money. So in Portugal, if you are a freelancer, you can generate the invoices within the Portuguese Tax Authority website. You can log in and you can generate the invoices directly from their portal. But if you want, you can choose to buy a certified software, invoicing software, and you can make the invoices through this software. If you choose this option, then until the 5th of the next month, you need to file this document that we called billing communication, where you inform Portuguese Tax Authority what was your sales from the previous month. So basically, this is also a mandatory declaration. Just one note here that I forgot, the billing communication are mandatory for companies. As a company, you cannot generate invoices through the Portuguese Tax Authority website, only as a freelancer. Okay. Now, we already see the VAT rules and the 15K per year. So this gives you the exemption of the VAT or not. There are, of course, some activities that they are exempt by nature of VAT. For example, medical activities. If you perform medical activity, you are exempt of VAT by nature. It doesn't matter if you make more than 50K or if you make 1 million per year, you are exempt of VAT. And the deadlines for the VAT, for filing the VAT, it's 2 months and 20 days after each quarter or month, and the payment it's 2 months and 25 days if you have VAT to pay, of course, after each quarter or month. There is also one rule about VAT that if you make more than 600K per year as invoice customers, it's mandatory to be with the monthly VAT regime. But standard procedure, usually it's the quarterly VAT regime. Now that we speak about some fiscal obligations that we have here in Portugal, if you can conduct a business, we can take a look now about the progressive rates of the IRS in Portugal for a normal resident. So as you can see, is divided by escalões, income levels that we call, and depending if you make until 7,479, then the rate that it will apply will be 14.5, 1450 as a fixable rate. And then if you make between 7,479 to 11,539, then the rate is 30%. So this is basically the progressive rates. This regime applies not only in Portugal, but also most of the countries of the European Union, Spain, France, Italy, Germany. The more you make, the more taxes you are going to pay to the Portuguese tax authority. Okay, so this is the scheme for a normal resident in Portugal. Okay, I think this is just also to let you know how it works, basically, what you can expect as a normal resident in Portugal. Now, there is another thing that as a freelancer you need to consider, that is social security. So there are two entities that a person needs to be careful in Portugal. The first one is tax authority and taxes, and the second one, social security. This 21.4 rate that you are seeing here, it's applies to freelance activity, to self-employed income that we are discussing here. As a freelancer, if you open your activity in Portugal and perform a business in Portugal, your first year of activity, you are exempt of contributions, which means that you do not pay social security contribution in Portugal. Starting the second year of the activity, you are going to start to pay social security in Portugal. And the social security that you are going to pay, I will show you an example on the next slide. If you could please, Katarina, on the next slide. Yes, it's easy to explain with an example. So every quarter, we have to file the declaration to Social Security with the income that you made from the previous quarter. So for example, January, February, and March, we have the first quarter of the year. In April, we need to file the declaration with the income that you made in January, February, and March. And assuming that on that quarter, you made 10,000 euros. For Social Security purposes, only 70% will count. So they only apply 70% coefficient. So it's 7K. And then they apply the 21.4% rate, which gives you 1,498 of social security to pay on the second quarter, which gives you around 500 euros per month. Okay, so this is an example. Based on 10,000 euros, you will pay 500 euros per month of social security as a freelancer in Portugal. Okay. Moving forward. Okay, so now I will get to you and at the end of the presentation and reply to your question. So here it's an interesting topic because as you can see in Portugal, the maximum rate that they can apply is 48% on your income, but then you can choose to incorporate a company, an LDA, an SCA, and then pay the corporate tax rate. And here we have 15% and 19%. Basically, the first 50K, 50,000 euros of profit are taxed at 15%. And the rest of the profit is taxed at 19%. I don't know if you know, but 2 years ago, those rates were 17 and 21%. The Portuguese government is now trying to attract companies into Portugal by reducing the corporate tax rate in Portugal. I believe that we have some attractive countries as well in Europe. We have Cyprus, we have Malta, we also have Ireland, that they have very attractive corporate tax rate. So this is what Portuguese tax authority is trying to do, to decrease the corporate tax to attract business into Portugal. So as you can see, if you make more than 80,000 euros per year, you easily reach the maximum 48% taxation on an individual side. So it may be more efficient to, for example, incorporate a company and then try to pay the corporate tax on the profits. So this is study cases that we can do for you if you want to move to Portugal and you want to understand what is more beneficial for you. We can do this type of study cases and let you know about it. So this is a small journey about the incorporation of a company. So the very first step is to get the certificate of the admissibility, which is basically the name approval. You need to select a name for the company. If you do not have any name, it's okay. There is a list that you can choose from the notary from Portugal. After that, at this stage, we recommend to have the help and support of the lawyer with the incorporation. And why is that? That is because in Portugal, we have a few structures for companies. We have LDA, legal structures. We have an LDA that basically you can open with a capital of €1. Okay. We have an unipessoal, which is basically a company that is owned by only one person. We have SCA structures. The SCA structure is basically you need to have at least 5 partners, owners, and minimum capital of 50K of 50,000 euros. So this initial part, we recommend to do it with a lawyer. Besides that, after you incorporate the company, you will get all the documents of the company, the certidão permanente we call, and with those documents, the next step will be to go to a bank, a Portuguese bank, and open the bank account of the company. And after we have the bank account of the company, we as an accountants will have the power to open the activity of the company at the Portuguese tax authority. And starting that moment, you are good to operate in Portugal with the company. Next. I don't know if you can, Katrina. Okay, so now I brought here a few tax incentives, a few tax regimes, special tax regimes that we have in Portugal to attract individuals, not companies, but individuals. So there is one that is missing here, that is the young IRS, but I can also explain a little bit at the end. So the first one is the NHR status. This is the famous NHR status that a lot of people have here in Portugal. And this basically was already ended in 2024, okay? But this NHR status gives benefits to who has it for 10 years. So incomes from salary, freelance activity may be taxed at a 20% flat rate instead of the progressive rates that can go up to 48%. Besides that, the NHR also gives other type of benefits to other types of incomes. For example, if the person is a tax resident with the NHR and obtains dividends from a company outside of Portugal, those dividends are tax-free in Portugal. You don't pay any taxation. Besides that, also interests are tax-free in Portugal as long as they are outside of Portugal. Rental income outside of Portugal, also you don't pay taxes in Portugal as long as is outside of Portugal. So there are several benefits with the NHR. We have several clients with the NHR that they have the structures, which is basically you can have a company outside of Portugal, you take dividends, and you don't pay taxes. Basically, everything is for you. Of course, you can be taxed at source of the company, but in Portugal, under the NHR perspective, you don't pay taxes. Nevertheless, it was closed in 2024, so it's not possible to apply anymore to an NHR, to this NHR status, but the government created a new regime, which we call the FICI, which is the NHR 2.0. So this regime was created in 2025 and has the same benefits as the old NHR, but the government now, they restricted a lot the application of the NHR. In the past, the old NHR was quite easy to apply for it. You only need to prove to the Portuguese tax authority that you didn't live in Portugal in the past 5 years and that you want to live in Portugal at least 183 days per year. So it's quite easy to apply for it. The IFICI regime, instead, you need to work to a Portuguese company and you need to make earn salaries from the company or to earn freelance activity income. You invoice the company to have the 20% benefits. So besides that, the IFICI regime, we have a list of professions, basically, and only those professions will be able to enjoy the 20% flat rate of the IFICI. and those professions are very restricted to professions such as university teachers, mathematicians, astrophysics, IT developers. So this type of area, Portuguese Tax Authority wants to attract this type of business into the Portugal. Another part, we have the return program, and this return program, I don't know if it will apply for you, we never know, but this basically are for those that in the past were tax residents in Portugal. They move outside of Portugal, and after 5 years, they want to come back to Portugal. And this return program gives the exemption of taxation of half of your income from salaries or freelance activity, up to 250K. So there is a limit. Okay. So basically, this regime, half of what you make is exempt of taxation. The other half is taxed at the progressive rates. And then we have the new young IRS that applies for young people up to 35 years old. And this young IRS also gives some tax benefits that, for example, I also use it here in Portugal. If you make less than 28 grand per year, which I know is not a lot, but it's still good, your first year you don't pay taxes. From the second to the fifth year, only 75%. 75% is exempt, so you only pay taxes on the 25%, and so on. So basically, it's a regime that as long as the year passes, you will pay taxes, but not as a normal resident. So it's to keep the young people in Portugal, basically. But also, if you want to move to Portugal and you are entitled for it, you can apply it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you like the presentation, and we are here to reply to any questions that you may have. Please feel free to ask. I think we already have one on the chat.
Thank
So
you
how
very
much is
much,
Social Security?
Claudiu and Ana. I'm sorry, Claudio, to interrupt. I will just invite our participants if you have any questions regarding the presentation. Now it's the right time. Feel free to drop your questions at the chat. We will be following. So yeah, we have already a question. Claudio, please go ahead.
Yes, of course. So the Social Security, so if you, for example, have a company and you pay a salary, and then how the Social Security works, this is different from the freelance activity. I think can I share my screen because it's easy to explain with an Excel file? It's possible.
Yes, Claudio.
Wonderful. So let me know if you can see the Excel file.
Yes.
Okay, so basically as a salary that you can pay through a Portuguese entity, the salary will have two components that are deducted from the salary. The very first one is the Social Security, and then we can also have a percentage that is the IRS every month. So the Social Security, it's a fixable rate of 11%. And the percentage for the IRS, it will depend on the salary, on the gross amount. The higher the salary, the bigger the amount of the IRS that we withhold every month. But on 1,400 salary, usually the rate is around 10%. Okay, so those two are deducted from the gross amount. Okay, so we can even do here the calculations just to let you know. This one, the IRS. So at the end of the day, the worker will get less the 11% Social Security, less the IRS. This will go into the bank account of the worker. However, for the Social Security, every company that pays a salary in Portugal to a worker, there is an extra cost of Social Security that is not deductible from the salary, but is an extra cost of 23.75%. So at the end of the day, a company that pays a salary of 1,400, the total cost with the salary is this one. It's almost 1,800 per month. So at the end of the day, the Social Security through a salary, it's this one plus this one. So it's 34.75%, which is a lot. Hope it was clear. Let me know if it was. And you're welcome. Happy to reply to any other questions. No? So this is a good sign. It means that we explain everything very well.
I don't know if perhaps there will be any question regarding the questions on moving to Portugal. Maybe for Ana Castelhano can support you on that. Maybe Claudia, I would put a topic here on the table regarding the tax incentives for foreigners. Sometimes even here at the AmCham, some Americans contact us about that, like concerned if the incomes they still receive from the US, it will be taxed here in Portugal. So I would say it's a huge concern that we find on the American community. So yeah. What are your
What
main
is that?
thoughts on that? I don't know if Finpartner also have that role of supporting some Americans that are in Portugal.
Yes, yes, of course. So the principal principal thing that a person needs to be aware is the fiscal tax regime, if they are tax residents in Portugal or not. So as I explained previously, at the beginning, when you start the processing to moving to Portugal, when you start to apply for a Portuguese residency, you will be considered and treated as a non-resident, which means that you will get your Portuguese tax number, the NIF number, and the address associated will be your address from outside of Portugal, from the US, probably. At that stage, you are not entitled to be taxed by Portuguese tax authority on your worldwide income, all of income that you make, only if you have income from Portuguese entities, from a Portuguese source. Okay, so if you make a salary from a Portuguese source, you have to declare in Portugal. Or if you invoice a Portuguese company, you have to declare in Portugal. If you make interests from any deposits that you have in Portuguese banks, you'll have to declare it here. So only if you have income from Portuguese source. At the moment that you get your residency permit, or at least you get the appointment with IMA, you will be able to change your Portuguese tax address, your address on the system to the Portuguese one. But at that stage, you will have to find, as Anna told you, you have to buy a place or you have to rent a place to have a proof that you are living here. So at that stage, we can request and change your status to normal resident in Portugal. From that day on, because it can be, for example, now on the 20 or tomorrow, 26th of May 2026. So if we change the address on that date, in Portugal, we have a thing that we call partial tax return, which is basically we'll have to file a tax from the 26th of May until 31st of December as a resident. So from the day that you change your tax residency to a Portuguese address, you have to declare your worldwide income in Portugal. Therefore, you will pay taxes on your worldwide income in Portugal. Okay, if you want to, if anybody has any questions, if how things, because we have the progressive rates in Portugal, but some type of income can be taxed at the fixable rate. For example, if you have dividends, can be taxed at a fixable rate of 28%. But you can also take these dividends and put together with your other income and pay the progressive rates. So each client has his own specific type of income, and the taxation in Portugal can be complex. So what we also do here at Finpartner, it's at the end of the year when we close everything, when we get all the information, we can do tax simulations and we can see what is the more beneficial for each client. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you,
Rodrigo,
Claudia.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Stephanie asked, couldn't attendees possible receive a copy of the slides, or will a recording be available? She asked. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I don't know.
if Finpartner agree, we can
Yes,
definitely
of
share
course.
the recording of the
Yes.
session. Yes. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, here at Finpartner, we help you with the first steps, with the beginning. We provide a tax representative service, as Ana Castelhano told you, if you need it, if it's mandatory for non-EU residents. After that, we can also assist you to change your tax address to the Portuguese address, and then we can also assist you if you want to incorporate a company, if you want to open a freelance activity. We can assist you with the IRS as well. So we try to cover here all the services and help the clients with everything that we can here in Portugal.
Apparently, I think we don't have any more questions here at the chat. Like Claudio and Ana mentioned, for sure we will share this recording. Finpartner, of course, will be available for any further clarifications at the future. Meanwhile, I think this is a great opportunity, Claudio and Ana, to thank you both for this great presentation. A really interesting and important topic for Americans and not all that are interested in joining and coming to Portugal and making this move. For AmCham, it's a pleasure also to count with your support on this webinar series. We will continue this initiative, so stay alert for the next sessions that we have on calendar. And Claudio, thank you very much, and thank you to all our participants that join us to this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.